Okay, so what I'm trying to teach you guys here, that if the partition column is not the last column, what gonna happen, right? So let's say I have the table orders. In orders, we have these 4 columns, right? We have these 4 columns. Luckily, I have order status at the end, but let me mess up this query by mistake. Okay, so what I'll do, order underscore date. Can you guys mute yourself, please? Order underscore ID, order underscore date, and then I'll say order underscore status in between. Okay, status in between, and then I'll say at the end order underscore customer underscore ID. Okay, so what now in this case, what Hive will do, Hive will use this column as, in fact, I don't want to go here, so I'll say order underscore date. Okay, I'll say order underscore date, and I'll tell you why I'm using order underscore date here, because I don't want to create too many partitions, right? Order underscore ID, customer ID will create a lot of partitions. I'll say order underscore customer underscore ID here. So guys, what I'm doing here, I'm just shuffling the columns, the column position, right? So order ID is my first position. I have order ID here. Order customer ID was my third column in the table. I selected at the second position, right? Orders underscore status, which in ideal scenario is my partition column, should be at the end. But just to show you guys what's gonna happen if the column coming in between, I put at the third status, and order underscore date is at the end. So let's run it. Okay, so what it's gonna be doing now? It will partition, obviously, right? See, for Hive, it doesn't matter what is the column value. For Hive, Nilendra, Monica, these are the strings. Even 26 May 2021 is a string. Am I making sense? So see, Hive is a machine, right? So for Hive, although for you guys, when you say states and you will say Florida, New York, or maybe New Jersey or something, and if I put my name here, you will say Nilendra, are you fool? Nilendra is not a state, it's a name. For you guys, it makes sense. But if I give this data to Hive and say, please partition it. So what Hive will do, it will create 4 partitions or 4 directories, one with Florida, one with New York, one with New Jersey, and one with Nilendra. And it will call Nilendra as one of the state. So the same thing it will do here. So what it will do, it will, although my my partition column is orders underscore status, right? What it will be doing, it will create all the directories inside my HDFS with date column. Okay, let it run quickly. One more thing you guys may be seeing here, that I have changed the Spark engine, Spark as the running engine yesterday. So that's why it's running in Spark. Okay, so don't get confused. So let it run. And then what we'll do. So now the question what Ram asked, that how we need to handle this scenario, right? How we need to handle this scenario. So what we can do, the way in which I mesh the data, we can use the same way to unmesh it. So what we can do, if your column is a third position, the partition column, you can say select first column, second column, third column, and always select the partition column at the end. Okay, it is taking too much time, and let's see. But let me do one thing. Okay, it failed because of some issue. But let's do quickly one thing. Hadoop FS hyphen maybe dynamic partitioning here. So let's see if something is getting created. I'm not sure. Maybe because it's creating too much directory. I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, sorry. It's cat command. So I'll go for ls command. So the job failed. Ideally, there should be no directory, but let's see. Okay, this is good. So what it did, it created the directories for us, okay? And inside these directories, and inside these directories, 1 second. So what I did, I truncated table, right? So let me do the truncate table again. Orders underscore dynamic underscore partition. And what I did here, orders underscore dynamic underscore partition. So ideally, every data should be gone. It's not going anyways. So ideally, what it is doing, copy, paste. So the data is not there. When I'm truncating table, it is not deleting everything, right? So the metadata is not deleted. So let's do one thing to prove you this thing. Let's go here. So what exactly, one more thing is, see, this is new for me as well. So when we truncate table, right, all the partitions become empty, but the metadata is not deleted. It means the partitions are not deleted. Only the files inside the partitions are deleted. Okay, so let's do one thing quickly. This is our orders underscore partition table. What I'll do now, I will first set the hive dot execution dot engine is equal to mr. Okay, so this is good, and then I'll say drop table orders underscore, even let's do one thing. Okay, this is done. Now let's see if this thing is gone. Okay, sorry. So it should say the directory should be gone now. Yeah, perfect, right? So the directory is gone. So one thing again for your notice, guys, that when we truncate the table, right, and this is obviously I didn't did it in past, but I did it today. So when you truncate the table, the directories or the partitions will become null for you. Like all the files inside the partition are gone. But what Hive says that this is a metadata. This directory structure is a metadata. So it won't delete the directory structure, okay? So let's do one thing again. Let's run that query again, this one. Wait 1 second. Oh, sorry, I need to create the table first. So let's copy it and I'll paste it. It's created. And then I'll run this command again, insert command, okay? In which I messed up the data and the order status is at the 3rd position. Ideally, it should be at the 4th position, okay? So now it will run the MapReduce job for you. And let's wait for it. Okay, so what I'm proving you that this is the wrong way of doing it. I'm just proving one scenario for you guys that, okay, if your partition column is a 3rd position, then what you need to do, you need to do the same thing what I'm doing, but you need to select it specifically. Okay, so let it run. Any other question in between, guys? Does it ever happen in use case? So the one more question was, see, whenever we are doing bucketing, right, I told you that bucketing is based on hash function, right? Bucketing is based on hash function. So let me do one thing for you guys. What is this? This is JDBC, right? So select star from employee. Okay, so we have employee department, and then we have employee ID. Employee ID is integer. And let's do one thing. Yesterday I did the same thing. So let's do one thing. Department, comma, department, and let's say 4. Okay. So ideally, the default hash function won't work. Okay. We need to write our own hash function maybe, but the default won't work. Okay. Because it won't be able to hash it. Like the default hash function is to check the reminder and put it somewhere, right? So it is coming null. Okay. And maybe I'm wrong, but this is the way to do it, you know. Okay. So let's see it quickly. But still, if we want to do the bucketing, you can still try. Okay. So what did happen here? Okay. So now see one thing, right? And again, see, I'm lot many things are which I missed in teaching you guys. That what happened now, right? What happened now? That the last column is what? Last column for us is order date, and into this particular table, right? If I say select distinct order date from orders, then it has 365 values. It has 365 values. So what Hive is doing behind the scene, it is trying to create 365 values for me. Let's see. Okay, so job got failed because of one issue, that number of dynamic partitioning per node has exceeded. So the maximum was set to 100. See, this is my pseudo cluster, right? This is my one node cluster. So there is one property called eggs hive.exact.max dynamic partitioning per node, right? So when I go here, and again, these are the things, you know, which you guys will, when you work in production, these things will come handy. So what happened here? Control C. Okay, so now let's say what is the so what you see here, that this is 100, and that's why, since the number for the unique dates was 365, so it failed, right? Now I think this thing is pretty clear, right? That it will always try to use the last column as dynamic partition column, right? So let's do quickly how to change that. Okay, how to change that. Then what I'm gonna be doing, I will just reshuffle these columns. So I'll say order underscore date here, and then order underscore status here. So this is the solution, the easiest solution. Okay, so when I run it, order ID, in fact, let's do one thing. Describe order. Okay, and let's do one thing. So order underscore status should be at end. Order ID should be first. The second column should be order underscore date. Why I'm doing it? Because my table and my partition table are in the same structure. Order underscore customer ID is third, and order underscore status last. So if you don't want to go for select star, you can go for select star if your partition column and your raw data column, if your partition table and raw data table have exactly same structure. But if your partition table and your raw data table has not the same structure, then you need to select your columns like this. So Ram, this is the answer for your question. Okay, so when I hit it now, it will perfectly work for me. Okay, so I'm not sure whether this answered your question, Ram. You can say yes or no in the chat box, you know. Perfect. Just to show you this stupid thing, I learned so many things today. Anyways, it's good for me, right? And you guys too learned so many good things, right? So see, Hive developers, right, took care of lot many things on our behalf. Okay, so till now what we have covered is Hive, right? Hive, HBase, Hive, SDFS, MapReduce, right? Um, so what we covered, that where we need to store the data, we say SDFS. How we need to process the data, we can say we can use Hive or we can use MapReduce, right? And why we are using Hive? That Hive provides some structure to the structured data, and it's provide a metadata so that we can write the SQL-like queries, right? But the thing is, what is the limitation of Hive? What is the limitation of Hive? The first limitation is your data always needs to be in structure format. Your data always needs to be in structure format, right? The second limitation is you cannot do deletion or random access. For example, when you go for Hive, I told you that you need to go for full table scan in most of the cases. You can do partitioning, bucketing, but still you need to go for example, if it is partition, right? Still you need to scan that full partition, right? Still you need to scan that full partition. Even though you go for bucketing, you need to scan that full file. Can we do something like that? That if we want to go to this particular code in this particular file, can we do it? No. And that's what the limitation of Hive, right? So what these people think about it, like the developers of Hadoop ecosystem, and they come up with something. They thought about it that, and in the beginning of the lecture, when I was starting these big data classes for you, I told you that only 20% of the data which exists is structured and 80% is semi-structured or unstructured. So Hive is suitable for this thing. Okay, it's perfectly suitable. We can do analysis and we can do a number of things. But what about this semi-structured data or unstructured data, right? So these people come up with a new concept called NoSQL database. Okay, NoSQL data means no SQL, and no means not only SQL. Not only SQL. So what these guys are saying, that there may be some data which cannot be processed just with SQL. SQL means structured query language, because the data may or may not be in a structure. So they came up with a new concept called NoSQL database. Okay, so let's compare what NoSQL database and the SQL database is. Okay, so when we talk about SQL database, it is relational. Relational means it has tables and rows. It has some table structure, right? When we talk about non-SQL database, NoSQL database, it may be structured or it can be unstructured. Like there is no relational mechanism in the NoSQL database, right? When we talk about data, we always talk about structured data stored in tables in case of SQL. But in case of NoSQL, it can be unstructured, stored in JSON files, or maybe in document database, or maybe in graph database. Like we can store anything, right? One more thing, what is most important, right? When we talk about SQL, I told you guys that when we need to write data, we need to define the schema first. We need to define the schema first, and then we will write data into it, right? Even in case of Hive as well, even though we don't need to define the schema first, but the schema is fixed, right? We will define that, okay, in case of the orders table, right? In case of orders table, how many columns I have? 4 columns. Let's say in future, I have 5th column coming in my orders table or my orders data. The 5th column may be order name, let's say, some dummy column, orders name. So in this case, what I need to do, I need to update this order table. I need to alter this table, that alter table orders, add column and order underscore name, and then I need to ingest the new data. One question here. So even though some of my orders is not having orders name, still that data or stated column needs to be added there. Am I making sense? So I have, let me explain it figure here. So I have this orders table, right? It has 4 columns. order ID, order date, order customer number, and order status, right? I have 4 columns, and I have one data file which has four columns into it. So what I was doing, I was load data local in path into this table, right? I was doing this stuff and it was working perfectly fine. So let's say some new thing happened and I have now 5 columns here. So data has 5 columns. Data has 5 columns. So now if I want to insert this here, it will only take care of first 4 columns and it will ignore the 5th column, right? But if I want to take care of 5th column, what I need to do, I need to add a new specific column here. Let's say the order name. Okay, and then I will insert it. But let's say my old orders, let's say this change take place, this new 5th column change take place at 22nd of June. 22nd of June. If I update this, if I alter this table and add one more column here, and then I insert the data, all the rows before 22nd of June data will have empty order name here. And all the rows after 22nd of June data, like the latest data, will have the new order name data. So what I'm telling you here, 2 things. First is that your schema in SQL needs to be static. You need to give the schema first and then you can insert the data. The second thing is, even though you don't need that particular column for some, for some data, you need to have that column specified. For all the rows before 22nd of June, I don't need this column, order underscore name. Still, I need to have that column. Okay, because we have static, we don't have the dynamic schema. Now, this is the limitation of SQL databases. The good part about NoSQL databases, if I have 5 rows, 5 columns coming from 22nd of June, right? What I can do, without even changing the structure of the table, I can add dynamically one more column from today's itself, from 22nd of June, and I have data like this. For all the data before this, I have 4 columns, and for all the data after this, I have 5 columns. This can be done, and this is what we call at a dynamic schema. We do not need to have the static schema, and this is the biggest benefit of the NoSQL database. So you have all the unstructured data. Obviously, unstructured or semi-structured data means you can have n number of key value type. Somewhere you can have your middle name. Like some people have their middle name, some people won't be having their middle name, right? So in this kind of sense, if people have the middle name, they can add it. If they don't have, then they can skip it, right? This is what we call dynamic schema, right? When we talk about scalability, right? When we talk about scalability, all the SQL databases are monolithic. Monolithic means that is only one system in which we are storing the data and we are processing it. If we want to increase the capacity, we need to increase it horizontally like this. We need to increase the memory and all, right? But when we talk about NoSQL databases, it is distributed, or it is horizontally scalable. These are vertically scalable, and the NoSQL databases are, we can add more instances. So what we call vertical scalability, if we adding more memory or more resources to the single machine, we'll call it vertical. And if we are adding more machines, then we call it horizontal, right? And that is why this NoSQL database is more what I can say, more flexible, more powerful, more distributed, and more the faster than SQL databases. We can have any number of nodes we can add here. If we want to increase the capacity, we can add 5 more nodes. Okay. One more thing is, when we talk about SQL databases, we can have joins, right? We have 2 tables, employee and department, and employee has employee number and department ID, and department has department ID and department name, right? Department name. So what we can do, we can join this and this, and we can have employee number and department name as the output, right? We can join it, inner join, whatever join we want to have, right? But in case of NoSQL databases, this won't be possible. We cannot join things, right? Now the question arises, if we cannot join thing, how we are using the data, right? So what NoSQL people are saying, that why do you need to join? You can have a single table like this. You want 4 columns, right? So they say, okay, create 4 columns, and what do you want? Employee number, right? Employee name, department ID, and create a, and why do we need to join? So just a single table, dump everything in it, join it. So right, this thing to have the one big denormalization, and denormalization prevents joining, right? Because obviously we have one big table, we will dump everything into it, right? So NoSQL supports denormalization, and SQL supports normalization. So what SQL say, that okay, if you have 5 different entities, one is employee, one is department, one is salary, a number of things. So you can put data into small tables, and you can join them if you want the full result. What NoSQL says, no, you do not need to create 5 different tables. You can create a single table, and then you can have all the data dumped into it, right? So that's SQL supports normalization, and NoSQL supports denormalization. SQL supports joins, and in NoSQL we don't have any joins because data is fully normalized. Okay.
Nilendra, I have one question. I would like to stop you and I would like to ask a question. Like normalization is used to make sure that there is no retention integrity problems. So how do you manage in NoSQL data?
You have so many voices. Can you ping me quickly? I'm not
sure.
able to get it. Just ping me, okay? And when we talk about OLTP systems, right? So I told you when we talk about SQL systems, they are fast. They're faster to write and faster to read, because obviously they're meant for transactional system. When we talk about NoSQL databases, they are fast than Hive, but they are not as fast as SQL systems. Okay. Okay. Now I'll cover the last point. So when we talk about SQL databases, they support ACID properties, right? ACID property means there are 4 things, right, in ACID properties. So the first property in ACID is A stands for atomic, the C stands for consistent, I isolation, D durable. Now what atomic A stands for, that transaction acting on several pieces of information complete only if all the pieces completely safe. It means, let's say you are withdrawing some money from your ATM, right? And your transaction got cancelled. Your transaction got cancelled because of anything, because of network issue or something. So your money from your account should not be deducted. Or if your transaction is successful, your money should be deducted. It's all or nothing. Okay, consistent means that everyone should see the same data. For example, consistent actually means the data which is stored into the database should follow some integrity rules, right? For example, if you have customer ID and I say the customer ID is my primary key, then I cannot have 2 customers with the same customer ID. It is violation of integrity. And this is what it says, that the data should be consistent, right? When I talk about isolation, so let's say you withdraw 100 rupees, then you withdraw 200 rupees, and at the same time your family member in India withdraws 50 rupees from the same account, from the bank account, right? You are withdrawing using ATM, and the family member is withdrawing using bank account. So let's say you have 300 rupees into your bank account, okay? And you first withdraw 150 at whatever 6:50 p.m. You again withdraw 150 at 6:51 p.m. At the same time, one of your family member from India or from somewhere withdraw 6:51 p.m. So ideally, which statement or which transaction should be successful? Ideally, see, you have only 300 rupees, right? So either this or this should be successful. So what isolation is saying, these two transactions should take place in isolation. So it means they should take place as if they are going in one by one. So it will go into microseconds, and then the first transaction will take place. The next transaction will take the history from there, right? So this is how the isolation works in place. If isolation won't be there, then you could have withdrawn 150. Your friend or your family member could have 150, and the bank has 300 rupees into their account, and they gave you 450. And this is where the isolation comes in picture. Okay. So now one more thing is durable, right? So once your data, you save the data, you can see the data at any point of time. So once your transaction is successful, the data should be saved, even if system is failed. When you open the system again, or when you turn on the system again, the data should be visible to you guys. Let me see one more thing. So the question is, then how denormalization? Okay, so there are two questions. Normalization done to make sure data is not redundant. Perfect. Then how the question what Akshay asked, normalization is done to make sure the data is not redundant. Data is not redundant. Perfect. And then how denormalization help to maintain redundancy in NoSQL? Then I never told you that we need to maintain redundancy, right? See, and that's a good question. Let me cover one more thing, right? So normalization means the data cannot be redundant, right? The data cannot be redundant. Denormalization means the data can be redundant. And there are two things, right? When we talk about NoSQL databases, we are ideally talking about Hadoop system or distributed system. So here the storage is not an issue. The processing itself is not an issue, because if you want more processing, we can add more machines. If you want more storage, we can add more data nodes. So to be honest, we don't worry about redundancy. Even though we need to store multiple rows of data for the same type, we are not worried about it. When we process it, we will take care of it. If I'm making sense. So when we talk about NoSQL, we just worry about storing the data. We don't worry about redundancy. We just worry about that, okay, we do not need to worry about join, and we need to take care of joins and all. The data is stored in one table. Okay. So this is how ACID property work. So now the question arises, is NoSQL database supports ACID properties? The answer is partially. Some databases supports. There can be a number of n types of NoSQL data. I'll cover them in 2 minutes. Some supports and some don't support. Okay, and this is what it is written here. And I'll cover the CAP theorem in 2 minutes. But some supports, like it's a partially supported ACID property in NoSQL databases. Okay. So ACID property is clear to you guys. Now let's cover one more important thing. And this is the most important thing when we talk about any NoSQL or distributed database. So there's one theorem called CAP theorem, right? So CAP stands for C is consistency, A is availability, and P is partition tolerance. Okay, so what C says, that whenever, if the data, obviously the CAP theorem is available for distributed systems. Okay, so what C means, that all clients see the same data at the same time. What it means, that if you withdraw 100 rupees from the account, and if your friend is checking the data, he should be seeing the account balance minus 100. Okay, what availability means, that system continues to operate if some nodes got failed. So what I'm talking here, that I'm talking about distributed system, right? So what availability is saying, that even though one node is gone, I have the data available. Now what partition tolerance is saying, the system continues to operate in case of network failures. So what it is saying, that this, we have different nodes, right? Like this, and these nodes are connected by network. So what it is saying, that even though one network is failed, the data should be available here. And even, let's say we have 4 clients, right? Or we have 1 client, 3 clients. One is connected to this, one is connected to this, one is connected to this. Okay, and these clients are trying to read some data out of it. So, and these 3 nodes, what these 3 nodes are doing, they are interacting with each other to update the data. So if this network connectivity is gone, if one of the network connectivity is gone between 2 nodes, let's say we have 1 node here, 1 node here, 1 node here, these 3 nodes are talking to each other to get the data updated. If this connectivity is gone, and if you update, let's say, some row here, so ideally this connectivity is gone, right? So this updated data won't be available here, right? So in this case also, the system won't stop working. Okay, so now in this case, maybe we can show some outdated data, but it's not like we should not be showing some data. Okay, so now let's cover the CAP theorem in more details. Okay, so we have consistency, availability, and partition tolerance. Okay, so what CAP theorem says, at any point of time, you can only achieve 2 things at the same time. So you can either have consistency and availability, or you can have consistency and partition tolerance, or you can have availability and partition tolerance. So this particular spot with all 3 together can't be achieved. You cannot have consistency, availability, and partition tolerance in a single system. Either you can have consistency and CA, so we'll call it like this: CA, CP, and AP. So either you can have CA, you can have CP, or you can have AP. You cannot have CAP. That's what the CAP theorem is. Okay, now let's cover few more things in the CAP theorem. So now we have 3 types of systems: CP systems, AP systems, and CA systems, right? So whenever we talk about consistency and availability, so what CA means, that all the clients will see the same data. First thing. The second thing is, the system continues to operate in case of failure, right? So system continues to operate. Perfect. So now let's talk about the banking application. Let's talk about the banking application. So what it says, that if somebody withdraws the money, then if somebody check the balance from the other location, they should see the same data, right? In case, even though some nodes have been failed, still the system should work. So it means what we need here, that this system, especially when I talk about CA system, it is not distributed. It is on the single machine, right? So when we talk about this particular machine, even multiple updates are coming, they are getting updated here. So all the people are seeing the same data. Okay, and the system is available. So there is active system. They can have multiple nodes. So that's why banking application are meant for CA applications. Okay, CA applications. So, and the example of CA application are all the traditional databases. SQL Server, Oracle are all CA systems, because they are consistent and they are available, right? So for all the distributed system, we have only 2 types of system. One is CP and one is AP, right? So when you see here, when you talk about CP systems, you have HBase, you have MongoDB, and you have Redis. So some of the examples of CP systems are HBase, MongoDB, and Redis. Okay, so what CP means, all client will see the same data. The first thing, if some nodes, if there is some network failure, even though the system should not stop working. So we have multiple nodes. What CP says, that we have multiple nodes, and if there is a network failure, then also the system won't stop working. Okay, now the third thing which came here is AP system. It means system should be available and system should be partition tolerance, right? So CP and AP, when we talk about distributed system, when we talk about distributed databases or distributed NoSQL databases, then CP and AP are the things. So when we talk about CP, it's more about the banking applications again, that we need to see exactly the same data, right, in distributed fashion, in distributed environment. Then we will go for CP systems. For example, if you want to, and this is why most of the banks use MongoDB when they want to go for NoSQL database, because in banking we need consistency. Okay, let me tell you in this way. So let's say when you check your balance, right, sometimes during midnight, then bank don't hesitate to tell you, okay, the system is not available. Bank can say clearly at 12 a.m. midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning that, okay, system is not available, it's in upgrade. So they won't hesitate. Why? Because they need consistency. They cannot show wrong balance to you, because you can file case on them, right? This is how the banking work. They need to show the consistent data. So all the banking application will have these databases. But some features, like for example, some databases or some, for example, let's say, let's think about airlines, American Airlines. Okay, so you log into American Airlines site, and there is one offer going on. In that offer, you have 500 or let's say $50 discount. Okay, and this discount is from, let's say, 6:30 to 7:30. Just take an example, right? And one guy logged in at 7:29. He started one session, and this session he continues for another 2 minutes. So what ideally happen? He should be able to see which data, this $50 discount data, or $50 discount should have gone from his bucket, right? For American Airlines, it doesn't matter actually. Even though what they want, their customer should always see some data. Either the data is $50 or without $50. Their system should not get outage, right? Because if their system got outage, it's bad for their reputation. And that's where they always go for AP system. The system should be always available, right? So when we talk about, again, let me cover one more thing. When we talk about partition systems, right? When we talk about distributed system, we only see two things: consistency and availability. Because obviously partition tolerance needs to be there. Because we are talking, if partition tolerance is not there, then the distributed system is of no use, right? So we can only talk about CP when we talk about distributed, or we talk about AP. CP means when we talk about consistency. Availability means the system needs to be available at any cost. Even though it can show outdated information, that's fine. Consistency means we need to show always the latest information. Even though the customer can get, okay, please wait for some time, or the system is under upgradation, then it is CP. So all the traditional databases are CA. They are consistent and available. All the distributed systems, distributed NoSQL databases, are either CP or AP. When we talk about CP systems, the main thing is HBase, Mongo, and Redis. When we talk about AP system, we have Couch, Database, Cassandra, and React. Okay, so now this thing is pretty clear to you guys, right? So what we have covered differences between SQL and NoSQL. Then we try to cover some asset properties, and then we try to cover CAP theorem. So anytime when you say, okay, I have worked on NoSQL database, people will ask this question, okay, what is CAP theorem? And you need to understand this thing. Okay, so this thing is clear to you guys, right? Now, when we talk about NoSQL databases, they can either be CP or AP, right? When we talk about CP, HBase, Mongo, Redis, and when we talk about AP, it's Couch, Cassandra, and RAG. But one more question arises: how many type of NoSQL databases can be there? Okay, how many types of NoSQL databases can be there? So, on a very, very high level, NoSQL databases have 4 different type of, on the very high level. Okay, so the first is column family, or we can call it column family oriented database. The second is graph, the third is document, and fourth is key value pair. Don't worry if you're not getting, it's very simple. In column family, we store data in columnar format. In graph, we store data into graph format. In document, we store data in document format, and in the key value, we store data in key value format. Okay, let me cover it quickly with examples. Okay. Yeah, here. So when we talk about key value pair, right? So what key value pair looks like? Key value pair looks like this. Name, Nilendra. Age, 22. Salary, 1,000. So this is how key value pair looks like. And it will be stored on something like this. When we talk about graph databases, graph database look like this. So all the Facebook information is stored in the graph database. So graph database is something like this. So let's say Nilendra has one friend, Ram. Ram has one friend, Monica. Monica has one more friend, something like this. Then this is how the graph is like. This is called vertices and this is called edge. So vertices and edge are defined there, right? In the column family database, and that I'll cover in a lot of detail, we have everything stored in column family. So we have only same type of column are stored in the same column. Okay, and the document database is what are documents? For example, JSON or BASIN are documents. So this kind of document will store in document database. Now, few examples. When we talk about column-based databases, the biggest example is, and the latest or the most popular is HBase, right? When we talk about document, it's MongoDB, right? And when we talk about key value, Redis is the most popular one. And for the graph, it's either graph database or Neo4j. So you must have heard these names. Okay, so people can ask you these questions, that, okay, what is the column database? Column-based is Cassandra and HBase. Document-based is MongoDB, maybe CouchDB. Key value is Redis, right? And Memcached. So these are the 2 most popular one. Memcached and Redis are the 2 most popular one. The graph is Neo4j or graph database. Okay. This is good. Okay, now this session is all about HBase. Okay, so let's cover in next 2 minutes what is the difference between Hive and HBase. Okay, so when we talk about Hive is meant for structured data in which we need to have some structure, right? So Hive is kind of a query engine, but HBase is a data storage particularly for unstructured data. So how things works? So we have SDFS here, right? And then we have Hives here. So what Hive is doing, Hive is not storing the data. Hive is giving some structure over the data which is stored in the SDFS, right? What HBase is doing, HBase have its own storage, but it will store into its own memory, which will create into SDFS, something like that. Not 100% correct, but it will create its own memory. Okay, Hive is meant for analytical purposes, OLAP. HBase is extremely used for transactional purposes. So let's say if I want to go for online system, let's say booking system. So I need to have insertion and select should be work very fast. So this is where HBase will come in, especially for OLTP, not 100% OLTP, but we can go for OLTP. So we know that Hive jobs can be converted, Hive job must be converted to MapReduce or Spark jobs or maybe Tej. When we talk about HBase, the operations in HBase are run real time in the database, right? These are not analytical. So whenever you run the HBase commands, so this query will MPP, massively parallel programming. Okay. Hive is for analytical queries and HBase is for real-time query. Okay, so one thing which is very clear from this particular set, that Hive is meant for historical data for analytical purposes. HBase is somewhere meant for transactional data, in which we need to have the insertion or the selection or the deletion updated very quickly. Okay, so Hive don't support CRUD operation fully. So new version of Hive, we can do the updation, but that's not preferable, right? But HBase supports CRUD operations. So CRUD stands for create, right? The C stands for create, update, delete, and read. So create, read, update, delete. So obviously Hive supports read and Hive supports create, but Hive partially supports UND, update and delete, partially. And it's not preferable to have UD operations into Hive, but HBase supports CRUD operation in a better way than Hive. Okay, so for example, when we talk about this operation, update operation. Okay, when we talk about update operations, what HBase do? HBase will update one particular row at one particular time, and it will guarantee it. But when we talk about multiple row update, it won't guarantee. So that's why I was telling you that HBase supports CRUD operation partially. So on one particular row, it will support updation or deletion. Okay. Obviously, read operation supports in a good manner. Delete also supports onto the same row. So that's why HBase supports CRUD operation partially. Okay, so what we're going to be doing tomorrow, I will be covering data model, architecture, and few practical examples. Let me stop the recording for now.